Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Strong Draws. My name is Brett Strong, and today I am coloring the Aqualad that I drew from the last episode. If you haven't seen that, go check it out, and you'll kind of see how I got to the point I'm at here. So, coloring is not something I do much of. Like I kind of discussed in the last video, it's something I'm trying to get more in practice for. So, actually been doing a little bit more. Kind of thought I'd go over the process of kind of how I go about coloring. Now I laid in the flat colors before we started, and what flats are, people do it different ways, but the way I do it is I take the midtones of everything that I would be doing, and that's kind of where I start at, and then I build up my highlights and my shadows. So you can see everything on there right now is kind of what I think would be the midpoint between the darks and the lights. Now for Aqualad it was rather easy because I just went and got a reference photo of a style sheet of him from the internet and just used those colors. So as you can see, I use the lasso method, and what that does is I'm just picking areas that I think should be the lighter parts, because right now I'm working on the highlights. Kind of cut those out and then airbrush in the color. Now, kind of a little bit what I'm doing, or how I got my brushes and stuff set up is I got just a normal Photoshop airbrush that comes with any Photoshop. I am using Photoshop CC. So go in there and choose that, and if you pull up your tool palette within your brushes, your brush settings, I've got the shape dynamics turned off, I got the texture turned on, the transfer turned on, and the noise turned on. Now if you go in, another thing I do is if you go into your shape dynamics drop down menu, I guess you call it, you can also turn on, I think in the second drop down menu is the pen tilt. And what that does, depending on which orientation I have the stylus at, it will turn the brush around. So you can see as it's going, the brush is kind of twisting and turning and getting into different angles. That's just due to that pen tilt and how the orientation of my brush or my stylus is. So kind of the reason I do that is when I am coloring, I like to turn the brush and pull towards the light source, and that really kind of helps sell where the light is coming from in the piece. So also in the top bar across your tool palette on top of your screen, I also have you can adjust all that, and I have the opacity turned down to somewhere in the 50s. As long as it's between 50 and 60, it doesn't have to be precise. And then the flow I have in the 40s. So again, anywhere in between 40 and 50 really kind of seems to work the best for the way I work on this. So, and again, I got transfer turned on, and that is set to pen pressure sensitivity. And so kind of, like I said, I use the lasso method, and kind of the technique I've been finding that works best is, at least for me, is I make the selection, and the edge of that selection, excuse me, I take the edge of the brush, the very edge of the brush, and just kind of butt it up right against the edge of that selection. And what that does is, since the transfer is turned on, what it'll do is kind of slowly build up the color you're putting down. So it'll give you a nice gradation as far as color to color. Also up there in the toolbar, another setting I have is there's a drop down menu that is pretty much just like your layers one, where you can change the setting of the brush anywhere from multiply, screen, hard light, what have you. and I usually will just turn it to screen. And kind of the advantage of doing that is once you have your midtones figured out, you can take that midtone, just set your brush to screen, and then it'll give you your highlights right there. You don't really have to go back and choose different colors and keep picking and keep, you know, kind of moving your color picker around. And basically all you do from there is just kind of slowly build up your highlights, is just by gently and slowly just make your selection, add a little bit, make another selection within there, kind of make a little bit, and it just kind of keeps, again, slowly building up and building up the highlights. And so this for me is kind of the quickest and I guess somewhat simpler method of get coloring done. Coloring for me is not as enjoyable as actually drawing, but it is a necessary evil that I've been trying to get better at over the past year and a half. But again, I do it very sporadically even then, as much as I want to get better at it, just because I'm primarily just a line artist. I kind of focus mostly on the drawing, not so much the coloring, so this is just, again, more practice for me to get even better. And so, again, like you can see, what I just make a selection and then I just use the edge of the brush on the edge of that selection. Also, another tip I kind of discovered is until you get almost to where I'm at now on these pans where I'm making the extreme highlight part of it, if you make your selection just a little bit bigger than the area you actually want, it'll make that gradation that much better, or that much smoother, I guess. So there's parts like there, you can see how big a selection I actually make as opposed to how much I'm actually coloring, or how much I'm actually going inside that, and how smooth that transition actually gets in there. So now there's some people who don't like the cut and, or the kind of the cut and the lasso method, kind of like I do here, and it is something I kind of fought for a long time, because I'm the person I really look up to, or I think is one of the best colorists in comics, is Peter Steigerwald. And he does a very airbrushy kind of painterly style, which I tried to emulate for a very long time, and it's something I still would like to learn, but I just don't take the time, like I said, to actually sit and practice as much as I should. So, but kind of a way to fudge that a little bit, because mainly the problem I see with most new artists trying to do the airbrush method is when the way kind of light works and plays off of objects, you're gonna have areas where you hit a hard line. It's, you know, there's gonna be parts where it fades out, and if you use an airbrush completely, it's gonna look kind of wonky and not as professional, I guess, or quite as dynamic as it should. Now, I'm gonna come back to that, but I kind of want to talk about using the screen method, or the screen setting, when you're doing reds, because red's kind of a weird color in the way it works. Because if you use red on screen, on when you're set to screen mode, it's just going to turn everything kind of pink and just keep making things lighter and lighter, and it kind of loses its vibrance and loses its impact and its dynamic quality, at least in my opinion. So for like his shirt here, what I do is actually, if you choose an orange color and have that set to screen, you get these kind of orange yellow gradients rather than lighter and lighter till you get to the point of where it's essentially pink. So just with Aqualad, I think orange looks a little more appropriate, because you know, playing off of Aquaman. So, but I'll do it for Spider-Man, for Superman. I just think it keeps the vibrancy of the picture and the reds up if you use an orange instead of using red. So, but kind of what I was talking about is if when I mean, there's a lot to learn about how color and light work on a object, more than I can go into in this one video. But kind of what I was saying is, if you use only an airbrush to do this, it gets kind of muddy real quick, and it loses its weight and mass and stuff. So it just kind of looks like a sloppy mess towards the end. Now there's some people out there that can do it, but overall I don't think it's a method that really works. So kind of a way I found to imitate that in the easiest way possible is something I did on another commission piece, which I'll post up on my Facebook page once it's delivered to the client, because it's kind of a surprise. So I can't put it up until it's given to who it needs to be given to. But if you do this method that you see me doing here for the whole piece, and then use your Gaussian blur filter in your filters drop down, what it'll do is it'll take this and soften it all up so it kind of looks like an airbrush. But then if you go back in and do kind of this again on top of it, and just add your highlights and your shadows and get those hard cuts that you need, gives you kind of the same effect as if you were airbrushing the whole thing. So I don't actually do that for this one, so I'm not going to be able to demonstrate it. I'll do that in another coloring video as it comes up. I'll kind of cover that and show you kind of what I'm talking about in the future. So, as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comments below, and I'll see if I can't clear it up, or if there's something I'm not explaining quite as well, or you want more in-depth explanations, let me know. Like I said, I'll cover kind of that blur filter technique in another video. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding shadows, and kind of again, I'm all about trying just to be quick and efficient, rather than necessarily making this look like, you know, an oil painting or traditional painting. So what I do here is, if I make a new layer on top of everything, and I choose this kind of purple color. Some people use purple, some use blue. I found purple to be kind of, I don't know, I like the color purple, so it's the one I ended up going with. But I make a new layer on top of everything, and then set that layer to multiply, and then go in and put my shadows in all with this purple. Now, again, you gotta go back and reset your screen mode to normal so that it doesn't lighten it up, but adding that purple, really, again, it's a way to make your piece darker without making it muddier by using darker colors. So, yeah, we're kind of just moving along here, adding all the shadows. Another thing that I'll do is, once I got the layers, or the flat layers done, the flat layer done, so I do all my flats on one layer, is I'll take each piece and put it on its own layer. So like his skin will be on a layer, his shirt will be on a layer, his pants will be on a layer. Basically any color that needs to be different is on a different layer. And I do up at the top of your layers palette there on the right, you'll see a little square that has what looks like kind of like a checkerboard in. So you click that, it's lock transparencies, and what that does is it allows you to paint without going outside the lines. So just kind of makes things a little easier. Again, I'll show you a little bit more of that in the next video, or the next coloring tutorial I do. So coming to the end here, just adding in the background. Again, check me out on my Facebook and Twitter page for any updates. You can see the high-res version of this picture, and I'm thinking about doing the other Young Justice Leaguers. So, again, any questions or characters you'd like to see me draw, drop them into the comments below. Again, if you want to see me draw Aqualad, go check out that video. So I'm just going to finish up the background layer here, and just want to say thank you guys for watching, and I will have the picture pop up here at the end, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.